That's better. Good evening, folks. Thought we'd try a little outdoor good nature this evening. One, it's a lovely evening, and two, it's really warm inside Casa Auto tonight. The air conditioning didn't kick on, so I'll be making a call first thing tomorrow. Hopefully, the furry roommates will contain themselves. They were a little excited about all the last ditch air conditioning motions that I was making, but they should settle down. Maybe they'll even take a nap. We're going to enjoy the outdoors and the humid summer-like conditions this evening as we share another hour together. So I know last week I said I was going to get a more formal slideshow put together because I thought I was going to have more time, and then I looked at what this week really consisted of, and it didn't happen. But I took a lot of cool pictures, a few videos that I'd love to share with you so we can get caught up on what's going on. Last week's column, if you read it, addressed the issue of avian flu and should we put our bird feeders up, should we take them down, what are we about bird baths. We're actually going to delay that actually several minutes till we get to a certain slide in tonight's program. But with that, let's go ahead and get our screen share going, and I'll show you what the last week has been, what I've been up to for this last week in terms of videos. Now, close that. Here we go. So that sums up my picture taking skills in just one photo, doesn't always just a little bit off. I put this picture in. It's a purple martin box that's along the Fox River. I think this is still Geneva. It's on the east side of the river. I get fooled by this martin house every year because it has two martins on it. It's a little early for purple martins to be coming back, but you can see purple martins at this box now. You can see them in September after they've gone back down south. You can see them in the middle of winter. These are some of the best purple martin decoys I have ever seen. There's two of them sitting on the outside. I've been fooled by this enough to know that they're fake, but I still like to go and marvel at it. And this time I thought to take a picture. So if you happen to be walking on the Fox River Trail on the east side of the river, a little north of Bennett Park, and you want to see the best purple martin decoys in the Tri-Cities, that's where you can find them. Okay, with that, let's move along. Let's go the other way. This past weekend was our King County Certified Naturalist. This was our second field trip. The focus was forest ecology. Actually make that woodland ecology, since that's mostly what we have in this area, our woods. As a forest has more canopy cover than a woodland does. Here we are, we're learning about woodland wildflowers along the trail at Johnson's Mound Forest Preserve. We've got a nice class this year. Over 30 folks have signed up to learn more about our area's ecology. I tried to show here kind of the theme for this week's program, and it's another fail. This is a spring beauty there in the center, and what I wanted to show you was how busy our pollinators have been, but I was just a split second too slow with the camera, and all I got was an okay picture of a spring beauty right here in the middle. I did a little bit better with the next. This is actually a video. I'm going to stop it right about here. So this is one of our local mining bees. The family that they belong to is called the Adrenidae. And I'm not exactly sure on the species, but it looks like it has enormous wings, doesn't it? But if I don't know if I can zoom in here. It doesn't look like I can. These bulging whitish structures on either side of the bee, those aren't wings. Those are legs covered with pollen. So this is a small bee. It is, oh gosh, probably a half an inch or less in size. It's sitting there on a trout lily leaf, and she has been busy visiting flowers like Spring Beauty and packing. There's hairs on her legs that are able to hold those little grains of pollen. So she'll take those back to her nest, which is basically a tunnel that goes into the ground that has different chambers. She'll provision each chamber with some pollen, and then she'll lay an egg on it, and then she's done. Her life cycle ends and the next generation begins. They will remain underground until next spring, when they come out with the next wave of spring ephemeral or springtime wildflowers. Let's see. I think she eventually flies away here. But yep, there she goes. Lots and lots of these bees are active right now. You have to look kind of closely to find them, though, because they are so small. So this, we made a stop at Johnson's Mound. There's a lot of downed trees at Johnson's Mound. Not that there's anything wrong with the trees there. It is a mound, a glacially based mound. It's called a kame. It's made of rocks and other materials that the last wave of glaciers left back, say 10, 12, 15,000 years ago. Tree roots have a hard time penetrating into substrate like that, so the roots tend to run out as opposed to down, which is fine for basic nutrient and water gathering, but it can cause trees to blow over should we get a strong wind and a storm. So again, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that. That just happens to be the ecology of that particular area. It contributes to some really interesting things that live on the woodland floor there, and this was one of them. This was a I don't want to move that to trash. I want to zoom in. This is a beetle larva that caught my eye because it was fairly large. I would say it wasn't as big as a chapstick, but I would say over 1.5 inches in length. It was pretty good size, and it was on top of a log. That was another unusual thing. Most beetle larvae in the woods will be found inside the wood. One of their jobs, depending on species, is to chew up, digest, help break down, decompose the wood that has fallen. So I took a picture of this, figuring that I would figure it out later. And then when I got home, what I was struck by was the tip of the abdomen. So what we're looking at here on the left side is the head, and you can see there's only one antenna sticking out. Maybe the other one's underneath this larva. But then we go up the J to the top here, and the back of the abdomen, the tip of the abdomen is blunt. It's actually kind of a scooped, concave shape to it, and I'd never seen a beetle that looked like that before. And it took a little while to figure out. I kept wanting to say that it was a type of a click beetle larva. I actually put a question on Bug Guide, which I'd imagine the people behind the scenes at bugguide.net are awfully busy right now because everybody is out and everybody's looking at bugs. But I didn't get an answer there, but I started poking around. And what this reminded me of was a click beetle larva. It's got a hard, shiny exoskeleton. But click beetle larvae have structures at the end of their abdomen. Most beetle larvae do, and that's what struck me as so unusual about the tip of this larva being somewhat concave like that. Actually, what it made me think of was, have you ever seen those ants? What are they called? There's several different kinds, but the head of the ant is designed to, or it works as a plug for the hole that the ants live in, the entrance to their nest. Some of the ants have these specially shaped heads, and they fit right in the hole of. My goodness! By the way, that is not my furry roommate. That's somebody else's. It's having a little bit of a fit over there. So I thought, is this a beetle that uses its abdomen to plug up a hole? And I thought, well, that doesn't really make sense because these things crawl around inside of logs, and unless it was somehow blocking competition or something. Well, long story short, I never did figure out why the abdomen is shaped that way, but I did figure out the species. It's down there in the corner. It doesn't have a common name. It's Maracantha contracta, but it's a darkling beetle. These are small. They're black and dark in shape. They exist mainly to produce these larvae, which help break down the fallen trees in our woods. Another name though for the larva is the false wireworm. Now, wireworms are a common term for the larva of the click beetle. So I guess other people have been fooled by them too. They aren't particularly rare. In fact, they're rare enough that they don't have a common name. But it is what's called a monotypic species. There's only one species in this genus of Maracantha, and again, it's a type of darkling beetle. Let's move on to our next. Uh-oh. What did we do here? Okay. So we talked about these last week after the visit to Bliss Woods Forest Preserve, but they show up at Johnson's Mound too. This is the largest millipede in North America, the American millipede, Narcissus americana. And I've got a little video here. I don't know if it's going to play or not. I just thought you'd appreciate the coordination it must take for this little arthropod to be able to move all those legs at once. Again, millipedes are different from centipedes in that they function more as decomposers as opposed to predators, which is what centipedes do. And millipedes have twice as many legs. They have 2 pairs of legs per body segment. Centipedes only have 1. Look at her go. I had done a little research. I think we may have mentioned it last week, how this is a species that lays a single egg in a nest and then moves on. Well, I did a little bit more digging into that, and I wouldn't exactly call it a nest in the sense that it's an open cup. It's actually a ball of shredded leaves and droppings that the millipede pastes together. And then the egg is inside of that, and it's sealed up. So should you happen to be at Johnson's Mound or Bliss Woods or Norris Woods, the different places where these millipedes exist in our area, if you roll a log over and you see what looks like a dirt-covered gumball or a little ball that's made out of dirt, chances are pretty good that you're looking at a little mud ball that contains the egg of an American millipede. I hesitated there for a little bit because we do have some beetle species that when they pupate, they encase themselves in a ball too. Those tend to be larger, more like, say, a chocolate truffle. Some are as large as, say, a ping pong ball, whereas the eggs holding balls of this millipede are smaller than that. They're they're smaller than a quarter, maybe slightly bigger than a dime. Kind of cool, huh? Oh, I forgot I put this in there. I thought you guys would appreciate. I'm a big Far Side fan. We'll be talking about insects with eye spots later on this summer, especially once our giant silk moths start flying. But we'll just say, and this one too. Gary Larson just cracks me up. Let me move that. Let's see if we can zoom in. Okay, yeah, I'll move that out of the way. Can you see what the caption is there? So it's 2 turkey vultures in a car gunning towards an armadillo, and the caption is "cutting out the middleman." So, Gary Larson, he was a genius. We don't need to see dogs playing. There's a little heads up for you, Mrs. McKinsey. We've got turtles and frogs that are active at the Delnor Woods Pond. So this is Delnor Woods in St. Charles. We talk about this place a lot. This is the middle pond. There's a string of 3 or maybe even 4 ponds, depending on how you count them, in this park that are all part of the former Collins property that the park district now owns. This one, however, the concrete dam that creates the pond is failing, and the channel where the pond is draining around the dam is getting bigger and bigger, and probably getting more and more expensive to fix. I don't know what the park district's plans are on this, but you can see here in the middle, let's see if we can zoom in on him just a little bit. There is a painted turtle on a log. This is one of 3 that were there. I was visiting the park with a group of preschoolers, so amazingly enough, there was still one on the log when I got up there to take the picture. The other 2 dove in. Along this muddy bank here, I saw several bullfrogs. I don't know if there's any in this shot. They were really hard to see because they were quite dark themselves, but they almost matched perfectly the muddy background on the bank here. Let's see, we'll zoom back out again, and we'll continue our exploration here. So getting back to the pollinators. So, we've been talking for a couple weeks now about the spring wildflowers. These are the insects that make sure we have flowers every year. This is, and I wanted for you to see how it is concentrating on these holes. We look at holes in down trees as, oh, that's the work of an ant, or that's the work of a wood-chewing beetle. It's also a ready-made chamber for ants like this. For bees like, let me move the cursor out of the way again. This is a sweat bee in the family Halictidae. Don't know exactly what the species is, but you can see she's kind of trying. Well, no, actually, I guess she's cleaning her legs off there. But they try these holes on for size, and then they go, this is where they lay their eggs. So another solitary bee. The first bee that we saw, the andrenid bee, is also solitary. Oh, there she goes. She's checking it out, seeing just what the possibilities are in all these holes. Now, she cannot make these holes, so she needs other insects to do that work for her. Again, this is another very small bee, 1/2 inch or less in size, and bright green, metallic green. That's a hallmark of the halictids, or the sweat bee family. I know as we hear about people this time of year going about cleaning up their yards. In fact, I had this question last week during a wildflower walk. Why don't we get rid of all those down logs? It looks messy, it looks cluttered. Well, this is why we leave stuff like that, because it's home for future generations of our springtime pollinators. Here's another look at her. You notice I got really close, and I was probably bugging her a little bit, but she doesn't move to see. She's probably plotting her escape, but thoughts of stinging aren't really in her mind because she is a solitary bee. Solitary bees are less apt to sting unless they are really, truly cornered. If I put my hand over her, she might try to give me a poke, but they have no colony to protect. So their strategy for survival is to just get the heck out of the way and move on. If one nest chamber has to be sacrificed, so be it. They'll go and find another one somewhere else. But gorgeous little bees. Pay attention to in the way I spotted her. I've mentioned this too in the fall when you're walking and you become aware of insect activity near the ground. Oftentimes, as we're in late August and September, when there's a lot of buzzing near the ground, it is an active yellow jacket nest. In the springtime, when you see things buzzing around logs, again, you're thinking, are there flies? What's over there? Chances are it's one of our many, many different types of solitary bees. Now, here's one. If we look, let's zoom in This is another type of mining bee. This one is probably a cousin to the one from the Johnson's Mound picture. Let's zoom in. What I was doing here probably amounted to harassment. Here she was. All she wants to do is get out so she can go get more pollen to provision more nest chambers for more eggs. And I was trying to get a picture. So I finally backed off. I was hoping to get video, but I figured she's got more important work than me making a video. So then she flew away. So there's the size of the hole, about the size of a pencil is the size of that hole. I believe this is a bee in the Katydid genus. These are bees that are also known as plasterer or polyester bees because of the way they line their nest chambers with it's a clear, it looks kind of like shrink wrap actually. The illustrations I've seen of it, but that's how they get their name. Again, early season bee. Once we get into, I was going to say warmer weather, but we got into that today. Once we get into June, these bees will be done. These tunnels will be sealed off. We won't see them again until the next generation comes out next spring. So here we have our carpenter bee, the bees everybody loves to hate. I'm going to stop it right here. It looks a lot like a bumblebee, but the abdomen of the carpenter bee is it has a lot less fuzz or hair on it. In some light, it actually looks shiny. Now, this is a female. If I remember correctly, it was super windy yesterday when I was trying to shoot these videos. But here she is. She's crawling around, and there she goes inside that hole that looks like somebody drilled it with a drill. It is almost perfectly round. But if you can see my cursor and follow it here, what she's doing is she's making inside this unfinished wood, which is what most of our picnic shelters are made out of, she's making galleries or tunnels inside, and she'll go inside, and then she'll maybe go to the right and then bore upward, and then go to the left and bore upward. She'll make a whole bunch of chambers in here where she will lay an egg, provision it, seal it up, and then her work is done. Now, you might, in this case, I was just lucky enough to see the female heading for her nest. But what you might be more aware of when the carpenter bees are active are the males. Now, I tried to get video, but it was just too windy, and the males would fly by so quickly. I figured we'd all get dizzy if we tried to watch a video of that. But the males will hover in front of these holes, and they will physically bonk other males that try to horn in on their territory. So it's kind of interesting if you're seeing bee activity, but they're not near flowers or the ground, which is where bumblebees tend to nest, and you're probably seeing the work of some carpenter bees. They are pollinators. They get a black eye because of their tendency to build their nests in things that we've built. In a completely natural environment, they would be doing this in the branches and the trunks of dead trees. So again, helping break that wood down. They're not actually eating it; they're just using it for their for building nests. But that does help that wood start to break down. Again, not such a good thing for our structures, but a pretty cool thing in nature. There is, and people always say, well, how do I get rid of them? Well, if you can keep the wood sealed, there's a lot of oil-based finishes that can be used, and they do not like boring through finishes like that. But I'll preface this by saying I have not been successful at the Park District, but I try to advocate for letting some of these bees stick around, because there is a natural predator. It's called a tiger. Is it the tiger bee fly? The tiger fly. I saw some out at Nelson Lake Marsh in the picnic shelter there. They were hovering, by the entrances to the carpenter bee nest in the picnic shelter at Nelson Lake or Dick Young Forest Preserve. So if you let these things persist, it's also going to encourage the numbers of the flies that parasitize their nests. So it is a means of biological control. It's just not quite as immediate as taking that can of Raid and squirting it and killing the bee, and probably lots of other things too. All right, rant over. Let's move on. Oh, I did get, so here's a male in the air right here. And there he goes. So their flight isn't always that erratic, but it was so windy yesterday. This guy was just trying to patrol the area, and these strong gusts just kept taking him away. But bees that are flying around like that are the males, and the bees that are moving with more purpose, heading into the holes in the wood, those are the females. All right. Oh, yeah, so not a deer tick. I guess that was the good news. This is a dog tick, and I deserved it. I was tromping around off trail in the woods. It's their season. This happens to be a female. We have a saying with the dog ticks that the females wear necklace, so you can see that necklace around her head there. The males have more of a striped pattern on their backs, so it looks like they're wearing suspenders. So males in suspenders, females in necklaces, and yes, I deserve this for trumping where they live. Okay, so earlier I said we would talk a little bit about the bird feeder status. I chose this picture. I took this picture as I was walking back with preschoolers from Delnor Woods. I got a kick out of this bird feeder. One, it's still up. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources suggested method is to take them down through the end of May. But I also was looking at the seed mix in this particular feeder. See how, let's zoom in here a little bit. There's a lot of big round grains in this seed. This is called red Milo, and it's a filler seed. It's used in less expensive bird seed mixes, and it's cheap to produce. There are a few birds that feed on it. A lot of it gets kicked to the ground, and the doves will feed on it down there. But I've heard that wild turkeys like to feed on red Milo, but it's not one of the seeds that a lot of songbirds will find attractive. So you can see this mix does have a few sunflower seeds in there, but that's about it. The funny part about this has got to be one of the fanciest houses in the northeast side of St. Charles, and I'm kind of thinking maybe they pay somebody to fill their bird feeders for them. But I just thought it was kind of funny that A, the feeder is still up, and B, it's got probably the cheapest bird seed in the neighborhood. Anyway, so I know some of you had contacted me to say, what about hummingbird feeders, and what about oranges for the orioles? What about grape jelly? Those are the sorts of things, if you're able to attend to them throughout, replace them daily, keep the feeders clean. I've heard that those are getting the okay. I still, on a hot day like this, I was really wavering this morning about putting the bird bath back out, but I haven't done it yet. I might, if it's going to be hot again tomorrow, I might break down and scrub it out real good tonight and put it out tomorrow. But we're we're a third of the way to the end of May, and hopefully at that time these restrictions aimed at preventing avian flu transmission will be lifted. Okay, let's zoom back out of this, and we'll move along. What else did we see? Okay, so theme of tonight is pollinators. These are, I believe, a type of mason bee. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. These females, which are the larger ones, seem to be gleaning, I don't know, some kind of minerals. This is one of the the stone posts at Potawatomi Park. So these structures are quite old. And again, I'm walking along and I become aware of all this insect activity low to the ground. And there must have been dozens of these bees. Oh, that was a male. Stopped by. He had one thing on his mind, and she clearly has another. But so you can see her tongue is out, and she's taking something off of these pillars. I'm not exactly sure what, but these mason bees, that is indeed what they are, and I'm pretty sure that they are. They will look for holes in mason. So some of their activity was around these holes in the mortar. But there was a gentleman who was running up and down the stairs here, and I think he thought I was trying to like sneak a video of him, and I said, no, I'm just, there he is back there. I'm just looking at the bees. Don't mind me. There they go. So smaller are the males, larger are the females, and yet easily dozens of them clustered around these stone pillars. Also important pollinators too. Here's a close-up of one of the females. I was trying to see if I could show you what she was doing there with her long tongue. You can kind of see it there, but you can see how she's working with her antennae, and then she's sticking her tongue out and collecting something here. If I find out a little bit more about what these bees, why masonry is so important to them, I will let you know next week. It was fascinating. I had to run and catch up with the preschoolers, though. So that was yesterday's walk up to Delnor Woods, and now I wanted to give you an update on the blessed event. We've talked in the past about our killdeer out in the nature play area. There's two little chicks here. This picture was taken on Saturday afternoon. So there were quite a few kids in the nature play area. This is a bird, I think I mentioned last week. This is a bird that when the babies hatch, when the chicks come out of the eggs, all they need to do is dry off, and within a few hours they can get up and use those little legs to move away from this nest, which that's a good thing because it is right there on the ground. They are pretty vulnerable, and I'm guessing that she was maybe we didn't know how many eggs were in the nest. They can produce anywhere from 2 to 4. Well, I suppose 1 to 4. I don't know if there were still eggs incubating underneath her. This is a bird that tries to time the hatching of the chicks so that they occur almost simultaneously. It's the same thing ducks do and geese do. She doesn't start incubating until all the eggs have been laid. So that way then babies all come out at once, and then they can scurry off to safety. At this point, probably the closest vegetation for her would be the savanna behind the nature center. That gives them a fair amount of cover, and then would also supply them with bugs that they need to feed on. So a little update there. And then Jerry, I have to thank you for your update. Another ground nesting bird in our area is the woodcock. And Jerry, I guess you ran into this bird with your brother Tom, and it was performing its broken wing display. So the killdeer is famous for that, but there are other ground nesting species that will do the same thing. What this bird is trying to do is cause a little bit of a commotion and look somewhat incapacitated, so that the whatever might be showing interest in the nest or in the offspring will be drawn away. So putting itself in a little bit of peril, but also knowing that it can fly away if things get too close, if danger approaches. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, Jerry. Now, we're going to step forward to today's activities. I actually gave a program this afternoon on bees. It was called Beyond Honey, Meet Our Native Bees. So again, the focus was on our local pollinators. And after that, we went for a walk out in the native plant garden. And first thing we come across is a plant that I didn't recognize. But I said, boy, one of the women in the group said, boy, it looks like coral bells. And I said, yes, it looks like the coral bells. There's a lot of varieties of coral bells. When I got back to my office, I cheated. I typed in Illinois native coral bells, and what popped up was the name down there in the lower left, prairie alum root. So those of you who are plant aficionados, you're probably thinking, well, how could you not know that one? But I don't even remember it being in the native plant garden. And of course, our Joan, who tended the garden for years and years, she's retired now. So the signs that I always used to look forward to using and learning from are not there. This is still a great resource, and I think it's just a matter of time till we get our staff reconfigured so that people are paying attention to the signs and the self-guided pamphlets that accompany the native plant demonstration garden right behind the community center at Potawatomi. So if you are local and you're thinking about native plants, be sure and check that out. So we continued our walk, and the toads were calling. Toads love hot, humid weather, and that's exactly what we're experiencing today. So there were lots of toads out in the river, and I saw something hop across the trail, and I thought, yeah, wait a minute, it is way too early for little toadlets, but can you see this thing right here in the middle? Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Right here, this thing went hopping, and there were several of them. Well, the first name that jumped into my brain was an insect called a frog hopper. Frog hoppers are actually spittle bugs. They churn up. They feed on plant juices, and then they churn up their juicy excretions, and they make that foam that we see. That should be happening probably within the next week or two. We'll start seeing spittle bugs, and I thought, oh, this must be what the parents look like. And then, like, no, you know what? That doesn't seem quite right, because the nymphs I've seen, the spittlebug nymphs I've seen, have a much more slender profile. So again, when I was back at the office, I start clicking around. You can see this is a true bug. By the way, there's a triangle here where the wing covers come together on the back of the insect. It's even got buggy eyes like a toad, doesn't it? Well, I love this name. It sounds like something somebody would make up, like in a cartoon, the big-eyed toad bug. It's not rare. It occurs pretty much across the United States. It does, though, like to be near water. It's a predatory true bug. So I would imagine there's a lot of different things that are coming up out of the water. In fact, there's some, I don't know if you can see that there's caddisflies flying around me as I'm talking. I would imagine that this insect has plenty to eat, but they like this moist environment near water. If you're going to check the native plants out at the native plant garden, look around. If you see little tiny, and by tiny, I'm talking about this frog was this big-eyed toad bug was maybe the size of my pinky nail, maybe my ring fingernail. It was a small, and I don't have long nails. It was a small little bug, very noticeable though by the way it was hopping and moving around. The color, from what I was able to gather reading up on this species, the color is variable. So don't look at the pattern. There's only one, well, there's two bugs in the genus, but there's only one that could be in this area. The other one, I think, occurs in the southwest. So big-eyed toad bugs now playing on the river shoreline near you. So we stopped to talk a little bit about the importance of leaving stems, and I did a little thinking out loud about how maybe if you don't like the look of stems from last year standing upright, you could probably cut them down. Just don't remove them from the area, because that's another habitat, that's another home for a lot of our solitary bees. There's some that will drill right into these plant stems and they'll lay their eggs inside there. They would have done that last year, so this is now the time when those young would be emerging. But when I broke this stem off, I didn't see any little holes, but I did see these structures here. Let's zoom in. They're not bugs. This one appears to have a little bit of a hole in it. So I'm not sure if that makes it okay or not. Here's another view. Let's zoom in. These are eggs of a species of katydid. Now I don't know exactly what kind of katydid, but it's another reason to leave our plant material around. Little things are hanging out there, just waiting for the chance to emerge and go about their own lives. But I would say that these, so that's my pant leg. That's the weave of the pants. These are, I would say, 1/4 of an inch in size, maybe 5 millimeters or so. Small, but important components of our local bug ecology. All right, I think we just got a couple more here. So then I was going back into the building. So this is right outside the entrance to the community center, and I happened to look up and I saw these little tunnels. I've seen these. I actually found some of these on my house last year when I was replacing an outdoor light bulb. These too are small, 1/2 an inch or less in size, and you can see a lot of them are empty. This is the work. You've probably heard of mud daubers, which create nests for their young out of mud. They provision them with spiders. Well, this is a different group. They're not in that mud dauber. Mud daubers tend to be a little bit larger. These are very small little wasps, but they too build their nests out of mud. So I couldn't get too far along in the identification of these. I don't know what the wasp look like that makes them, but you'll see these around. These are mud nesting spider wasps. Everything has a check and a balance. These are wasps that use spiders as prey for their developing young. That's another reason why wasps have venom, is to paralyze their prey, whether it's a big old cicada killer stinging a cicada for its developing larva, or a tiny little spider wasp stinging a tiny little spider for its developing young. But those spiders get stuffed in there still alive. The venom just paralyzes it, and then the larvae feed on it. It's stuff right out of a horror film. These things, they can't move. They're still alive, and they become food for the next generation of these wasps. I believe that was it for our slides here. This was the end of that. So let's stop this slide share. See, we got a couple of comments here. Whoa. Boy, now that it's gotten dark, I've gotten some weird colors there. Oh, hi, Mrs. Janet. The turtles and frogs, they are out at Delnor Woods. Yeah, that's better. I don't look quite so ghastly. So Delnor Woods, there's 3 or 4, depending on how you count them, ponds at Delnor. And Laura, the bullfrogs, they were dessert plate sized bullfrogs that were sitting along on the side of
Awesome.
the so they'll be waiting for you.
Well, if I can get to the pond, and not have them all jump or jump away with all my little guys.
Well, and I hope the water's still there, and I hope it continues to rain because the water is just that dam has just completely failed, and there's there's grass growing where the dam is, and then the water is coursing around it, and people have shoved rocks there and logs there, but it doesn't stop the water from flowing.
It'll be interesting to see how everything turns out there. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll keep you posted in about a month.
Well, maybe you can go. Well, you can go dip in the where the pond the beavers created downstream.
Yeah, yeah. We'll avoid the poison ivy, but yeah, we'll do
Right.
that.
Well, and you saw the bright green sweat bees. Yeah. So keep an eye out for these things, folks, because this is a limited time engagement as we get into summer. These the spring ephemerals, the flowers that these solitary bees are tied into, a lot of those are going to be going away. So too are they. As we get more into summer, we'll be seeing a lot more activity from our bumblebees, and of course the honeybees, which we didn't talk a whole lot about because they are our local non-native species. But let's hear for the pollinators. They're popping up all over. What about squirrels eating baby birds in nests? So did you see this happen, Julia? Or I tell you, it is really tough to be a baby bird because
It,
other birds eat them. There's birds eat other birds' babies. There's been documented cases of deer coming along. There's some of our birds, they nest at a low, like maybe 4 or 5 feet off the ground. Deer will actually browse on those nests, and they'll consume the eggs and sometimes eat the babies too. Just as I don't know that they seek them out, but they're right at the level where they're browsing, and so they eat them too. So
I was wondering how I could protect them. I don't know if there's a way.
yeah, well, so birds, adult birds, if they have to lose a clutch of eggs or a brood of baby birds to protect themselves, they will, because they can re-nest. Um, I know that sounds heartless and cruel, but it happens all the time. Crows and blue jays are always getting blamed for taking other birds' babies, but a lot of other species do it too. So squirrels will do it, birds will do it, chipmunks. They'll eat animal protein too. So there's and squirrels actually, male squirrels will sometimes return to the nest and toss out their own their own male offspring to reduce competition in an area. So, yeah, it's crazy, and I don't know. As far as protecting them, pretty much anywhere. I mean, if a squirrel can get to the nest, anything that you might do to prevent the squirrel from getting there might also prevent the parents, or might deter the parents from returning to the nest. So I don't know if anybody else, if you got something that you'd like to chime in with on that one. I'm not sure if I can think of something that would be a solution, because it's just sort of something that happens. It's a lot of things eat baby birds. um, Sorry for the non-answer on that one. Oh, can you see the caddisflies? They've found the light out here. Turn it a little bit more the other way. Yeah, so anybody, if you've got a suggestion for Julia, just go ahead and type it in the chat. And Meredith, so Meredith was on the walk today in the native plant garden, and we were looking at a number of trees in the native plant garden that have been wrapped in chicken wire because the beavers are we've got a lot of beavers active along, well, up and down the Fox River. I don't know if anybody's counting beavers these days, but it seems like we've got an awful lot of them. And they do have preferences for certain types of trees. Like we saw where the alders, most of those have been mowed down. Dogwood goes quickly. I've heard that they like silver maples, the sorts of trees that you would expect to find along a waterway, but they also, I've seen an awful lot of oaks that have been chewed, and some of them have even been girdled, which means that they're not going to be able to survive because the living tissue has been severed. So they do have preferences, but they can eat and it's just the outer part of the tree that they go for. They can feed on a number of different species. They do eat a lot of herbaceous plants too, as they start to become more numerous as we get into the growing season. But yeah, they eat a lot of different trees that are growing up and down the Fox. At Delnor Woods, those beavers have cleared out pretty much all the hackberries and the black cherries. We did have a lot of those, so I don't think anybody was too upset about those. They were going after a lot of the younger trees too. But they chewed on a cottonwood there, so they have a lot of different trees that they will go for. Taking down a lot of hackberry along the Great Western Trail too. Yeah, I think hackberry might be a tree that is fairly, I don't know if you can say palatable, but it doesn't have the off-putting resins that some of our trees, like pine trees and things like that, I don't think they find those very attractive. I did notice, did we see today that there was some chicken wire around the eastern red cedar? That seemed a little odd. I didn't know they chewed on cedar, but I guess that was a tree that somebody felt we needed to protect. Any other points anybody would like to make? Any ideas, suggestions, observations you've had? We are looking forward to maybe a little, well, no, I can see the moon. I thought maybe we were going to get a little rain tonight. I think it is supposed to be a little bit cooler tomorrow, and then another day of 90s, and then some rain. And then next week we'll be back into our more typical springtime temperatures. That'll probably bring a bunch more springtime changes, which we can talk about then. This coming column this week has it's about an unusual bird that showed up on a porch in Batavia, so I know we'll be talking quite a bit about that next week. Might even be able to have a special guest. We'll see if she's available. If that's all we've got, folks, we'll call it a night. Stay cool.
Pam, I just wanted to plug the Wild Ones.
Oh, geez, Kim, you know what? I had your slide up, and I must have clicked out of it.
That's okay.
This weekend, most important is the, let me pull it up here. Let's see. The Wild Ones plant sale at Gray Willows Farm in Campton Township. It starts, what time does it start, Kim?
It's from 10 till 2.
10 until 2 p.m. So you got to get out there and get what you need. Okay, I'm going to pull it up here, and I'll do a share so that you can all see the information again. Kim has put, well, and Kim, is this year seeming a little bit easier because of our, it's not a pandemic year anymore?
Yes, well, we don't have the restrictions. Last year we had people sign up on Eventbrite, and this time we're just letting people come. It's a nice big barn, so it's easy to get around in it. So.
Oh, good.
It's easy to find it too.
What?
It's easy to find that.
Right. Yeah, it's right on Corin Road, right where Burlington meets Corin.
Exactly. If you go out on
between 64 and Silver Glen. So.
All right, there we go. Can everybody see that?
Yay.
See if I can zoom in on that map. Lots and lots and lots of native plants, including ferns, trees,
Yes.
and shrubs. So there's the address on Coron Road. And let's see, can I move this over? No, it's not letting me. There we go. I'll just keep zooming in.
Mhm.
There we go. So, Gray Willows Farm on Coron Road. Right there. Hope
There
to
we
see you there. I'll be heading out. I will set my alarm because it's a Saturday. But 10 and
Right.
2. Oddly enough, you know, when I was reading up on those andreniid bees that are visiting the spring beauties, that was there was a bee guy that was writing about how they don't get up terribly early. Usually they start around 10, and usually by 2 o'clock they're done for the day. So Kim, you chose the same hours as one of our local pollinators.
And that was our plan. No.
It all
Sorry,
works together.
not really. But yeah, the rain's supposed to hold off until later, so it should be a good day.
I give you time to get them in the ground and then get them
Right.
watered with some.
Right.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
everybody. Yes, thank you, Kim, for reminding me of that. I'm gonna go see if I can get my air conditioning started. So appreciate your time this evening, folks. We will gather again next Tuesday night, 8 p.m. for some more good nature.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you. Thanks, Pam. Good night.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
So long.